why did GDKP runs come into existence? What is the problem that GDKP runs appear to be able to handle at least well enough for people to want to participate in them? I think talking about stuff like that is a lot more useful and also fun than the main ways GDKP gets talked about. Normally, the things that people do when they talk about GDKP is they want to say who the run is benefiting, and they like to talk about how it relates to RMT. Really quickly, I want to beat the shit out of the stupid arguments people have for who's getting serviced by the GDKPs running. Now, this is usually what people say. They're going to say the people who really gain from GDKPs are these big spenders, okay, big spenders. This will be the one that they will say. They'll be like, these guys, they buy a ton of gold and they go to GDKP runs and they get all the gear. All right, so these are the people that gain from GDKP. And then the other one they'll usually say will be the organizers. So you can say organizer, and perhaps they're like cronies because, you know, maybe you think the main tank getting a 2% cut is a little ridiculous, which in my opinion is a little ridiculous, even though it is totally normal in GDKP culture. This is usually what people will say when they're talking about who gains from GDKPs is these two people. But here's the issue with it. These big spender guys, they totally exist, and you know why they exist. It's because they're individuals who have a lot less preference for money, IRL money, generally, than they do for getting some gear, right? This is true. But this inequality creates this situation where you can't have too many of the big spender types, right? So when you have a GDKP roster and it's filled with people, I mean, how many people do you have in the organizer plus cronies? These people, you can't have too many of them either. Why? Because they fucking get like double, triple cuts. Of course. So what? At absolute worst, if all the organizers and their friends are getting maybe around double the gold, then you can have half the run. Literally half the run be the people in these two groups. At absolute most. You literally couldn't have it be any more. If these guys are getting double cuts, then they can't be more than 50% of the group, because why would any of these guys come here unless they are literally just here to purchase gear? So you could have more than 50% of the group be organizers if everybody else is a big spender. That's the only way. But generally, when you're thinking about this like breakdown, it's like, okay, so you have like 2% of the run is the fucking raid organizer, like up here at the top, right? And then maybe they have 4 friends. That's probably pretty normal. So that's like another 8% is like the cronies. So it's like you got like fucking organizer here. You have cronies over here. They're like 8% of the run, right? And then you have the big spender, and you have everybody else. And that has to fill out this big 90% here. There can't be too many of the big spenders or the system doesn't work because it fucks up the whole thing where they prefer to buy gear. So no matter how you break it down, there is, in the GDKP, there is a huge amount of people in the run who are regular players, and they show up because they prefer saving money or earning gold to getting gear. And then there's also, of course, all of these people, everyone involved. There's this other part, which we'll get into in a sec, about like, do GDKPs have better runs than SR? This is another big one. Do they have better runs than SR? I will say yes, they do. If you have ever ran a fucking guild or a pug, you're going to have this opinion. If you've never ran one of those things, then I mean, I talk to people all the time who haven't like ran a run before, and it's fun to talk to them, but you really have no fucking idea what you're talking about if you've never done it before. at all. So what are some great things about, we could say, MSOS as a loot system, SR, and GDKP as they relate to pug groups? I want to make it clear, this is not really about guilds, at least at this point, although I'll talk about GDKP guilds later. I've been in a couple of GDKP guilds, and I was extremely unimpressed by the culture that I felt like GDKP created, but there's other factors too. When your run is GDKP, it makes it so that way the individuals in the run are more replaceable, and I think that makes it a lot easier to tolerate toxic behavior from people, especially from high performers. In a pug, I don't think that's a big deal, but in a guild setting, it is a big deal. We'll get into that later, though. Let's see, MSOS. What are cool things about MSOS? I think the best thing about it is that it's easy. This is the absolute best part about MSOS is that it's easy. What's the best thing about Soft Reserve? Incentive for people after chase items. So fucking chase item incentive. What's the best thing about GDKP? This is a really big one. This is the real reason GDKPs exist. Incentive alignment. Incentive alignment. And what do I mean by this? Referring back to, you could say, like that diagram I was drawing before about how you can only have so many people be the the management class that are trying to steal from us poor regular players that are running the GDKPs or whatever, and then there's like the big spenders whales. Well, the incentive alignment in GDKP is really, really good. What are features of the incentive alignment? Your time in the run. So as the run progresses, time value increases. Right? Because as you get closer to the end of the run, the amount of money. So you can think this, you're in a really bad GDKP. It's been 90 minutes. You think the run will be over in an hour, but if it's really bad, it's over in 2 hours. So now you have this decision. You can leave the run, or you can stay and risk it being 2 hours, but then you get the pay. So, you know, your time that you've burnt, it's already like sunk. So you can really conceptualize this as, well, I thought this GDKP was going to take, let's say, you thought it was going to take 2 hours. It's 90 minutes so far. You think it's going to go to either 2.5 hours or 3 hours. You don't really think that either of these are worth your time. But here's the deal. What you're actually looking at right now is you can spend, 60 minutes or 90 minutes to make the gold. So you know what sucks about this is like you got fooled. You got fooled. You're going to be in this run for this long. You thought it was going to be 2 hours. It's going to be longer. But this isn't all bad. Because this fooling of you is now putting you in this strange situation where you're getting to look at, oh, well, now I'm in this sub-problem where I can make the same amount of gold I thought I was going to make before, but instead of it being in 2 hours, it's in 60 or 90 minutes. So you're highly incentivized to stick around and deal with stupid bullshit. It's weird. Everybody's there just for money, and yet the incentive alignment is fucking amazing for dealing with bullshit in a run. Let's go back to the other ones, though. What's another good thing about having your loot system be MSOS? TOS compliance. TOS compliance. You can have Blizzard easily moderate what is allowed and disallowed when it comes to the handing out of loot after rolls have happened. This is good. So TOS compliance. We're going to go back to this later. I actually think that approaching this problem of how to leverage TOS compliance is a real solution to making it so this incentive alignment shit from GDKP just does not matter. You can use the TOS to align the incentives, but not in the ways that people are suggesting right now, where they're like ban gold buyers. That won't work. People who buy gold have high preference for their free time. What do you think is going to happen if you buy them? They're probably going to just spend more money, or they're just going to quit the fucking game. And if they quit the game, it's probably going to lower the price of gold and get other people to buy gold. It's not a great solution. Let's see, SR. What's a good thing about SR besides the chase item incentive? So this would be, like you're already very geared, you have max gear, it's era, you keep going to BWL because you want to get the FT. What's another good thing about SR? It makes it so that players who are less useful get more gear that isn't very important generally, but is important to them. So you could say it increases the value of shit gear. Like increases shit gear value. And by increasing the value of it, I mean it makes it more valuable to the people who contribute heavily in a raid, generally. That's a cool thing. GDKP doesn't really have this feature as much because normally what you're going to do in a GDKP is you're going to have a price floor. So floor meaning like this is 0 gold, this is 1,000 gold. These are arbitrary numbers, by the way. And then the GDKP organizer will decide, let's say 1,000 gold is a fucking ton of gold though. Although it really isn't, especially on like era, I guess on anniversary also. So say this is a fucking assload of gold, 0 is of course nothing, and the GDKP organizer is trying to find out. It's like microeconomics shit where you're like you got like supply and demand, and you're trying to figure out what's the point at which you set the price for buying an item for the minimum. And normally, if you're trying to ever run a GDKP, here's the fucking secret. All right, here's the fucking secret, guys. You just pick really high numbers for the price floor. So if you're not sure and you think 1,000's a fucking asshole, like seriously, just go with like 800, because there are so many people who will buy shit that's not this for 800 gold just because they want to save time. Because if they don't buy your stupid fucking piece in BWL for 800 gold, then they're thinking, I have to go do BRD and get something slightly better that's a lot more work. So in GDKP, this feature of the shit gear creating a lot of value for everybody, I don't really think this exists. In GDKP, it's the biggest items that are like 95% of the pot. Okay, so it's most items don't really contribute anything. The big items, they contribute absolutely everything. So shit gear isn't really valuable to the GDKP system. And then what's another nice thing about GDKP? And this is another thing that's super duper important. It's close to incentive alignment in nature, I think, when you talk about it, but it's just a little different maybe, and I'd say that's ease of recruitment. This is an incentive alignment thing for the organizer, I guess, but ease of recruitment. And this is huge. This is especially huge if you run a group and you have friends. Okay, so like that's like you run pugs, you some guy, you like to run pugs, and then you got like fucking 5 homies that like tag along. Okay, then this ease of recruitment shit is super important, because rather you know it or not, your 5 friends will refuse to play in your runs if you are often canceling them. So what do I mean by that? You're posting in, you know, like fucking trade chat, you know, you're like in /2 and you're like looking for more, and then it doesn't work out. You don't fill the raid. Every time you fail to fill the fucking raid, you're training everybody who depends on you to fill the raid that you're unfucking reliable and they shouldn't trust you in the future. Every fucking time. And it's a finite resource. You can be an idiot about this only so many times before your friends will be like, he's a nice guy, but yeah, he just isn't very good at running things. And then it's done. You're not running things anymore. Or you're starting from 0, which sucks. So this ease of recruitment thing, this is fucking huge, absolutely enormous. And both of these things, I would say, what's cool about the incentives with GDKP is like these are specifically extra good for the leadership people. They're like really important to the leadership people. These other things, they're nice too. You could say like the whole chase item thing, this has like a backdoor effect of helping when it comes to putting groups together in SR, because you'll get people who want to come just to SR something. But this also competes with if you want to have HRs, right? So it's not as good of an incentive alignment with the leadership as like these ones are, which is general incentive alignment between all members where they want to stay. This is really huge. And then being able to set the group up easy. And then MSOS gets like absolutely dunked here, because this is let's talk about negatives. Negatives, like there's just no reason to run this. No incentive. You could or it's like no incentive or like 1 HR. And what's funny about this is that the no incentive route, these runs probably are worse than ones that have an HR. Like I bet you people who don't reserve anything run worse groups than people who reserve something normally, because I bet most people who don't reserve stuff, they're inexperienced and they haven't dealt with the pain of dealing with the general public too much. And another thing that's funny about MSOS is that having 1 hard reserve is often a greater tax on the raid than having a leadership cut in a GDKP. It depends on the raid, but this this would be an example of that. Let's talk about the Molten Core loot table. Which items actually go for a lot of gold? Right off the bat, I want to dispel a ton of items. I want to say that people with mana bars don't spend a lot in GDKPs. Mana bars are poor. Mana bars are poor. All right? This is especially true with healers. Healers don't spend fucking money. All right? Now, what kind of shit drops in MC? You have Onslaught Girdle. Ooh, big money, right? Big money. I can't spell the G very well. There we go. We have Bone Reaver's Edge, right? Big money. We have Bindings. Big money. And then maybe Acuria, so I'll put Band of Acuria. It's not huge, and Quick Strike Ring. These are your big money items, all right? Now, when you do a full MC, you probably on average get one of these 4 items. One of these 4. So you get one juicy item, and that item is worth probably it's greater than 50% of the pot in a GDKP. Almost always that one fucking item. And then the bindings, these are a weird one because they're really rare. They can go for a ton of gold, but let's scrub these, I would say, because I want to right now compare how much value is taken by somebody running an MSOS using HRs versus a GDKP organizer with some form of cut. That's what I want to get at here. And having the bindings in, usually GDKP organizers, they want the bindings and they create some kind of discount to actually purchase them. So it's kind of similar to an HR, although it's much less reserved than an HR because they still are spending gold, and usually a fairly substantial amount, although not market rate. So you get one of these 4 items every run, and it's 50% of the pot. Now, pretty normally, somebody's going to HR 2 of these items. They're probably going to get the ones that are worth more gold, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just say they get 2 of these 4 items. So each of these items, you know, it's like this is half the pot. It's whichever one of these drops, and half the time when they drop, it goes to the guy running the MSOS thing because those are the 2 out of the 4 that they selected. So it's kind of like the person running the MSOS thing has a 25% tax on the raid. If you run an MSOS run and you hard reserve Onslaught, BRE, and Bindings, and you compare that to a GDKP group where they say Bindings has a buyout value that is low and only the host or their friends are allowed to actually purchase it, and then they get like let's say a 10% cut for hosting the run. Like, look at the difference here. And you could even argue with me about, well, do they actually HR 2 things usually? Okay, sure. Let's say they're only HRing Onslaught Girdle. So that's 1 out of these 4 things. That's still, it's similar to a 12.5% tax, as in the case of GDKP, if you're running an MSOS run. So MSOS, looking for more, Onslaught Girdle and Bindings hard reserved, it is still crushing GDKP when it comes to rewarding the leaders for their time in the form of like gold or items. And in reality, the Onslaught and the Bree, these just go for a lot more than these other items on the left. So really, the number is greater than 12.5%. It is basically for sure greater. If you run an MSOS and you hard reserve stuff, you're taking more shit from your raiders than if you run a GDKP when you're talking about pure value. Now, okay, so if this is, and this is also, you could say these same things are true with SR when it comes to HRing some stuff. It's like absolutely the exact same stuff. SR actually lets you stack the deck a little more in your favor because you can get really creative with when you start the SR sheet, and maybe all your friends are gonna go on Onslaught Girdle, and then they're gonna get off it a little bit before you close it, and like you can do lots of shady shit with SR to make it even more stacked than the MSOS hard reserve systems. But if this is true, wouldn't you think, well, why are people running GDKPs if you get more compensation from running something else? And I think that this all then gets back to what it was the real impetus for GDKP to become this thing that evolved. And I think it's just that playing with strangers sucks. So it's like WoW sucks with strangers. It's fucking terrible. It's terrible, and when it's GDKP, you have so much more control over the strangers. What are some issues with MSOS? Okay, MSOS. How can you control player behavior? You can kick them. All right, so you can kick them. It's the same thing with SR. So say MSOS plus SR. You can kick people. I guess you could lower their roles. This is not a great solution because I think it's just not very socially acceptable, and people have a low ability to interpret probability. So like this, I don't think this really works. I've never seen this work, but you can lower roles, I guess. And that's about it. But there's issues with this, which is that like if people leave, you can't replace them. So if you kick people in MSOS or SR, you can't replace them. People really have you by the balls. And also as the leader, that is like you're the leader, people in your group have a lot of leverage over you in MSOS and SR, which is painful. It's really painful. Somebody, for example, a mage player, maybe a couple mage players, they see that mage blade doesn't drop, toe-up doesn't drop, you're about to pull Domo. They're like, oh, I'm tired, I'm drunk, I'm just gonna like fucking turn my computer off. Yeah, if you run 40-man pugs and they're MSOS or SR, you will have people just randomly say nothing in DC, even if the run's going great, because they feel like they have no incentive anymore. And so you have no leverage over them because they have nothing to gain. So they're like, fuck you. I don't care if this causes a problem. I don't care if I leave the run and then the run doesn't complete and all these other people wasted tons of their time. I'm going to save 11 minutes of my time, and I'm going to cause, I don't know, let's say I leave early and then you guys can't, like me and 3 people leave early and then you can't kill Domo and Rag and you spend an hour on it. So it's like 3 people save like 10, 11 minutes. 37 people lose an hour a time. So it's like, I want 11 minutes of my time. Fuck your 37 hours, strangers. This happens constantly. Whereas in GDKP, you have a lot of leverage over the strangers because you have gold, and gold you can break into tiny little bits. So you can actually kick people in a GDKP. You can actually kick them because Blizzard doesn't fucking control how the value is broken down during the raid. So the reason that kicking works is because you do all the value assignment at the end. So like fucking GDKP need to be at the end. Must stay. You have to stay. Otherwise you're wasting your time. These things, it's not that you must stay. It's you must stay until your chance of getting the item is gone. So it's stay till boss kill. Whatever is your favorite boss. You can help mitigate this shit by, of course, doing all the item rolling at the end. But if the item just doesn't drop, then people can dip as soon as the boss kill is over. And if they're a fucking psycho, and there's a lot of people who act like fucking psychos online, especially people who play in pugs exclusively and aren't in a guild and go and post on WoW subreddits. There's a lot of fucking weird deranged people there. Now, if GDKP, though, people, they basically got to stay. And also, latecomers get paid more. You know, because you had a bad run, and it's going to go a bit longer. And you're looking for 2 more, and you're on the last 2 bosses in BWL. And it's a GDKP. And you're like, oh, dude, I'm going to get fucking paid. Maybe this will be a really bad run. It's going to take us an hour to kill Chromag and Neff. And then if like something good drops off Chromag or Neff, I'm going to get a huge payday. And I didn't have to do all the shitty bosses that drop nothing. That shit's really, really sick. Now, let's try to tie this back onto how could you make shit like MSOS and SR be better? Now, this is kind of crazy. I'm not saying that this is a good idea and this is something Blizzard should put in the game, but I think if people thought about it this way, you could maybe come up with some things that are actually good. If you had the ability as a player to send somebody a request in game where it was like, do you promise to have the next 2 hours free to raid? So like this, you add a dialogue option. It's like request authorization or request commitment to stay online. Yeah, that could be a request commitment to stay online. So if you could do this, if you could invite everybody to your raid group, and then instead of doing a ready check, you can do a commitment check. And everyone has to hit, either yes or no. It's one of these two. And then if they fucking spend too much time, they spend like 10 minutes logged out in the next 2 hours, they get a temp ban. Oh my God. This would fucking annihilate the whole people not staying to the end problem. This kind of shit would actually greatly diminish the reason to do a GDKP. It would fucking be so handy. And there's so much shit you could do like this by getting creative with the TOS to actually make it so that way people treat each other better. I don't think gold buying is anywhere near as big of a fucking deal in this game. It's just how many people are fucking asshole parasites or just assholes. It's ridiculous how many people are just rude for no reason about literally all sorts of things everywhere all the time, and there's no punishment for it. They could put in punishments for being a dickhead. and some people are going to think this is crazy. They're going to be like, well, what if something comes up and I have to leave? Well, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Get your shit together, okay? Then it's easy. Go find a run that doesn't require this commitment check. Because, if you were to ask people, like if you could like freeze time and like ask the people like, yeah, do you got 2 hours to do this pug? Everybody that joins would just say yes. And either they're telling the truth or they're trying to manipulate you. If you're telling the truth and then something happens and you got to leave, that sucks. Just don't we don't have to ban people for long. It doesn't have to be a big thing. There's like so many ways that this could be put in. It could even be like you could request a gold deposit. It could be like the commitment thing. It could be, all right, so if you log out, then you fucking lose gold off your character, and it's like mailed to everybody who met the commitment check. Something like that. There's so many ways to do it. You can get so creative. And then for all the people who are like manipulators and like, well, I just say what I have to so I can get in the run. Like, yeah, if that's you, then, I hope bad things happen to you IRL also, and I would love it if you got fucked in the game. Like, you kidding me? And that's a lot of people too. You'll see people talking on the classic WoW subreddit about how they love it when they're in a dungeon run and something's hard reserved, and they agreed to the terms of that run, and then the master looter like fucks up putting on master loot, and then they like ninja an item. And there's people who are like proud of this when it's like, okay, you're an actual insect person. Like, what is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? So I think having some kind of way to authenticate that people are committed to the run, this would help a whole lot. Another thing that I think would possibly be cool is, and this is, I'm not saying this is a good idea, although I think the commitment check thing is actually a pretty good idea, is how do we make it so that way there's more of a reason for people to come at the end of a run? And now this would tie back into creating some GDKP incentives. But if you didn't need to actually be there for the boss kill to get the item, if you just had to be there for like some of the bosses, like if killing the last boss, so like if last boss unlocks all loot items, all loot. So it's like you can either be there for boss number 1 and then you can receive loot from that boss, or you can be there for just the last boss and then you can also get loot. Something like this would be really cool because it would mean that in MSOS and in SR runs, you can increase the value of someone's time as the run goes on. And so this would mean that replacing people in MSOS and SR runs becomes really, really easy, especially because you could actually advertise that there are particular items that people could get, which makes it even better because people are very risk averse, super risk averse. And so if they could join your MSOS run and they know an item they're interested in is there, even if there's a lot of competition, they're going to be so happy that they have a chance of getting it, which would be cool. This would take, I think, a lot of gas out of running GDKPs, a whole lot. Most people going to GDKPs are honestly going there because of a combination of run quality and because they like to get paid. These are the reasons people like it. Run quality and getting paid. And paid is complicated because paid is literally in the form of something that's, gold is very similar to cash. This is true in any game, even if there literally wasn't a way to to actually buy gold off people because time is money. and you have to spend your time on the game. So paid is a mixture of literally getting money, and then it's also, I would say, a mixture of getting just pure value. So this is like the ability to buy items, you could think. And you can't give people the money part with the SR, MSOS, unless there's like that commitment check thing and people fuck up a lot. But you can give them the value part. And I think that this getting paid part is very tiny, because going to a GDKP, if you actually went to GDKPs exclusively to make gold, it's still not really a good use of your time at all if you consider RMTing. It's not. You're getting paid like, I don't know, probably like a couple dollars an hour. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's mostly people like the run quality, and then there's other sources of value conferred by the GDKPs. And I don't think if Blizzard made bad versions of things like this that it would make the game worse. Like if they put this commitment check in and it was like you can fuck it up 3 times and then you get a 1 day, and then you can fuck it up 3 times, then you get a 1 week, and then you can fuck it up another 3 times and you get like a month or something, that would do a lot, because a very tiny portion of the player base at large causes most of the bullshit. So it's like, even if there's like a lot of bullshit behavior in the game, it's like this really tiny slice of fucking assholes that causes all of it. And any kind of system that's got like 3 strikes you're out type shit, it's really built to like hammer these motherfuckers, the repeat offenders. You know, it's not like everybody else. It's not like casual offenders really matter in just about any system, unless like the thing that they're doing is very bad. And I wish when people would talk about things like GDKP, just in general, cap the video off. I wish when people would talk about this shit, they would try to get more deep down on why it's done at all. I mean, like another one, for example, people like chase their tails around a lot is World PvP. World PvP. And a place people chase their tails around with this is people saying that World Buff griefers are trying to engage in PvP when obviously they're just trying to piss people off, right? Piss people off. Everyone who goes and fucks with strangers for hours a day, they just want to fucking piss people off. And then people like try to go and mutate the conversation to all sorts of other shit. It's obviously completely fucking illogical. It's okay if you like World PvP, but let's be real. Most of the people who do a lot of it are not really doing PvP. They're going and running around trying to fight people who have no interest in fighting, and they are trying to upset them. That is their goal. Let's not beat around the bush. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. And if you want to raid with a bunch of fucking crazy people, then hit me up in Discord. Peace.